Did you know that most people say yes over 100 times a week and regret half of them? Yet we say yes when we mean no, and it costs us time, money, and respect. You get pulled into other people's bullshit, delay your own goals, and let's face it, at times even look soft. Why the hell do we keep saying yes when we already know it's a no? And how do you shut it down without blowing up the relationship? Most people think saying yes keeps things smooth and keeps them liked, but that's not true. Saying yes all the time isn't kindness, it's a lack of boundaries, and everyone can see it. It's not about being an ass, but when you get how to say no confidently, you stop playing defense and start running the game. Think about it. Most of us grew up with messages about being nice and helpful on repeat. But have you ever stopped to question why that message got so deeply ingrained? Our parents and teachers rewarded us for sharing, for putting others first, for being the dependable one. Nobody sat us down for the equally important lesson about protecting our own time and energy. So this is what we did instead. We formed this dangerous pattern where our needs consistently fall to the bottom of the priority list, right below that coworker who just needs a quick favor for the fifth time this week. This isn't just about missing a few hours of free time here and there. The consequences run deeper than that. In fact, there's one consequence in particular that most people never even realize until it's too late. When we constantly say yes to things we want to say no to, we're essentially volunteering for a slow-burning form of self-sabotage. Research has linked chronic people-pleasing to serious burnout and festering resentment toward the very people we're trying to please. Let's put this in perspective. The average person wastes between 5 to 10 hours every single week on commitments they wish they'd declined. Do the math on that. It adds up to weeks of your life each year spent fulfilling other people's priorities instead of your own. That's weeks you could have spent working toward your goals, recharging your batteries, or simply enjoying your life instead of sitting in meetings that could have been emails or helping your neighbor move furniture when you're already exhausted. Here's something fascinating about why saying no can feel so uncomfortable. Our brains are literally wired to avoid social rejection. Neuroscience research shows that saying yes activates the reward centers in our brain, giving us a little dopamine hit, while saying no triggers the same pain centers that light up during physical injury. Your brain actually processes potential social rejection, similar to how it processes physical pain. No wonder it feels so hard. This creates the perfect storm. Biological discomfort plus years of social conditioning equals an almost complete inability to protect your time and energy. It's not that you're weak, it's that you're fighting against both your neural wiring and years of social training every time you try to set a boundary. The real problem isn't about lacking willpower or backbone. It's that most of us were never taught the crucial difference between assertive, passive, and aggressive communication styles. Without understanding these distinctions, we bounce between extremes, either being a doormat or overcompensating by becoming unnecessarily harsh when we finally reach our breaking point. Here's where things get better. Assertive communication means expressing your needs clearly without trampling over others. It's finding that sweet spot between doormat and dictator. It means you can say, I can't take on that project right now, without either apologizing 10 times or making the other person feel attacked. This middle ground is where healthy relationships thrive. What's interesting is how these communication styles play out in daily life. Passive communicators hint at their needs and hope others will read between the lines. They say, I'm kind of busy, but I guess I could help. Aggressive communicators demand their needs be met without considering others. They say things like, that's not my problem, figure it out yourself. But assertive communicators? They state their boundaries clearly while maintaining respect for both sides. This is what that sounds like. I understand this project is important and I'm not able to take it on right now. The good news is that assertiveness is a skill, not a personality trait. And like any skill, you can learn it, practice it, and get better at it over time. You weren't born knowing how to drive or use a computer, you learned. The same applies to setting boundaries and communicating your needs effectively. Learning that assertiveness is a skill was my first breakthrough, but knowing something and doing it under pressure are worlds apart. The practical tools of boundary setting. Think of boundaries like muscles. They get stronger with specific exercises, not just understanding the concept. You don't get Arnold Schwarzenegger biceps by thinking about curls. In high-pressure moments when someone is pushing for your time or energy, most of us default to one of two equally problematic responses. We either launch into a lengthy explanation of why we can't help, which actually invites the other person to solve our so-called problems, or we avoid the conversation entirely, leaving the issue unresolved. The game changer for me was learning the four-part no technique. It's a foolproof structure that gives you something concrete to say when your mind wants to blank out. I'll reveal to you what the exact steps are so you can use it as well. But first, let me show you what it sounds like in practice. I appreciate you thinking of me for this project. I won't be able to take it on. My schedule is at capacity right now. I'm happy to recommend someone else who might help. Notice how different this is from the typical, I'm so sorry, I wish I could, but I have this thing, and maybe another time, and I feel terrible approach that many of us default to. The four steps are 1. Acknowledge. 2. Decline. 3. Brief reason. And 4. Hold the line. I'll share another powerful technique with you in a second, but what I like about this four-part no technique is that it's easy to follow the four steps. You can make it your own and apply it anywhere you want. The power of this technique is that it shows respect for the request while remaining absolutely clear and firm. You're not apologizing for having limits. You're simply stating them. When I first used this approach, I was amazed at how quickly the conversation shifted. Instead of feeling defensive, I felt in control. Instead of the conversation dragging on for 20 minutes, it was resolved in 2. The second technique that transformed my ability to say no is what psychologists call the broken record method. When someone pushes back on your boundary, and they often will, you calmly repeat your position without adding new arguments or justifications. Adding new reasons actually weakens your position because it suggests your no is negotiable if the right counter-argument is found. What does this sound like? I understand you need help with this, but as I mentioned, I'm not available to take on additional work right now. Same position, same calm tone, no new openings for debate. The first time I tried this, I felt almost guilty for not engaging with each new point the other person raised. But I noticed something fascinating. After the third repetition, they actually stopped pushing and accepted my boundary. The third technique, called fogging, is particularly useful when someone criticizes your boundary. Instead of defending yourself, which keeps the conversation going, you simply acknowledge what might be true in their criticism without accepting responsibility or changing your position. It sounds like this. You might be right that someone else would do this faster. I still need to decline. These verbal techniques are powerful, but your body speaks volumes too. Research on nonverbal communication shows that maintaining eye contact, keeping your shoulders back and relaxed, and using a steady, medium-paced voice can actually make your words 3 to 4 times more impactful. When I started paying attention to these physical cues, I noticed people took my boundaries more seriously from the start. One of the most overlooked aspects of setting boundaries is the strategic use of silence. Most of us are so uncomfortable with even brief pauses that we'll fill any gap with more words, usually weakening our position in the process. Practice stating your boundary and then simply stopping. Let your words hang in the air. This simple act prevents rambling explanations and gives your no the space it deserves to be heard. I used to think that saying no effectively required some kind of innate confidence or special personality. What I found instead is that it's much more like learning to play an instrument. It requires specific techniques practiced regularly until they become second nature. The beauty is that every time you successfully use these tools, your confidence grows, making the next boundary a little easier to set. Let me tell you something powerful. This journey isn't just about learning to say no. It's about reclaiming ownership of your life. Every time you set a boundary, you're making a statement about what matters to you. Start with low-pressure situations. Say no to that coffee meetup you're dreading, or decline that extra task when your plate is already full. Notice how your confidence builds with each small victory. Here's what's fascinating. Watch how people respond to your boundaries. The ones who matter will adjust. Those who push back or guilt trip you, they're showing you exactly where they stand in your life. Your time is the currency of your existence. Spend it wisely.